It's pancake time, and you have options. Whether you use some of the pancake options in the Fast Track cookbook, even some of the topping recipes that you can make in the Instant Pot, you definitely have options. But in this cooking video, I'm going to show you how to make them with our favorite new little ingredient, Einkorn flour. So I'm going to show you how we make them and give you lots of different options, and of course a few cooking tips from the home economist, so you can learn some things that maybe you didn't know before. The very first thing we're going to do is to make buttermilk, because pancakes are really good with a soured milk option. So whether you start with regular buttermilk or cream or coconut milk, you're going to need a souring agent. So you can use apple cider vinegar, or you could use lemon juice. So what I'm going to do, this is some cream because this works well for us, and I'm going to add lemon juice. Now here's how I do it and have for decades. If I have 1 cup of coconut cream or coconut milk or milk, to that I would add 1 tablespoon of my souring agent. So since I've got a little bit more than 1.5 cups, about 1 2/3 cup, I did about 1.5 tablespoons of my souring agent. Now I'm going to do that at the beginning so it has a chance to begin to make the buttermilk, and that works really well, because you see, when you're learning about inflammatory foods, you may discover, my body didn't like buttermilk, or my body doesn't like dairy. In some cases, it doesn't even like coconut milk, but maybe you do okay with cashew milk or almond milk. Doesn't matter the milk source, it's a matter of adding that souring ingredient that allows the buttermilk to appear. So we've made our buttermilk. Now you're going to have the recipe for this on the website, wherever Forrest puts it. Now we're going to start to build. We're going to use, I think, my little recipe that I wrote down, 1 3/4 cups of flour. Now I've already put 1.5 cups in, but I want to show you something that some people do. I'm sure it's not you, but it makes for problems when it comes to baking. How many of you, when you go to mix, you just scoop in and sort of do that? You know what? Yep, flour everywhere. Somebody in our family does it, and it's not me. The much more correct way, if you're not going to measure or weigh it, because I don't like to weigh it, that is too much work. What you want to do is take a spoon and spoon in the flour and then scrape off the top. Now, if you're going to be really perfect, you would take a flat and do that. Now what you've done is you've aerated the flour, and it will cause you not to get way too much flour. With pancakes, that's not a super big issue, but there's some baking where that scooping in like that is a big issue. We're going to leave that flour there because that's okay. Now, we're also going to add in a sweetener. What I'm using is monk fruit. That seems to be a sweetener that a lot of people can use. We're putting in baking powder. We're putting in Himalayan pink salt. And we're putting in baking soda. Now, one of the things that I do all the time, especially if I'm tired, I set out my measuring utensils, both of them, and I have a liquid measuring cup instead of a dry for liquids, and I set out all of my ingredients in order, because if I'm tired, I have noticed I forget things, and then I forget the order, and then I forget the sequence, and I can't do 6 or 7 recipes at one time like I used to. I just find that it's better if I lay it out, review my recipe. So I've got my flour, I have my other dry ingredients. I'm going to put them in there, and then I'm just going to mix them together with a fork. So that's my dry ingredients. Now we need the liquid ingredients to mix. This is as hard as it gets. So I have my soured milk. I have 2 eggs. So I'm just going to gently blend those with a fork. And then, because I want to mix it with my soured milk, I'm going to pour it in here. That's why I have a bigger container so that there will be room for the eggs. And then I have melted some butter. If you didn't want to use butter to make it dairy-free, you could either use ghee or you could even use coconut oil. And then we want to make sure all of this gets blended, just at least a little bit. And then we're going to simply pour it all in. Now by doing that, I don't have the egg in one portion of the batter and the butter in another. That all got mixed in my liquid measuring cup. And then you want to mix this up. With quick breads, it's not about mixing to every lump is gone. In fact, that actually will create a problem. So we've mixed it. You want to make sure the flour is off the bottom. That's it for pancakes. Can you see it, Forrest? Okay, that's our pancake batter. Now you have two options. You can go right ahead and make these, or you could make these the night before, cover it, put it in the refrigerator, and it gets a little bit of a soured taste, plus all the work is done. And then all you have to do in the morning is make them. Awesome. Now let's go over, because we're going to go ahead and make one right now. And then tomorrow, Forrest and Anna and Cheryl are going to have pancakes for breakfast. So a couple of tips when you're making pancakes. You want a hot pan. I always spray mine. I don't keep olive oil in here. I keep almond oil, avocado oil. So I've already sprayed my pan. I've heated it so that you get a nice brown crust on your pancake. And the way you can know your pan is hot, did you hear that? It definitely splattered. In fact, it almost splattered too much. It was almost a hard sizzle. So I'm going to lower that temperature, and I'm only going to make one pancake. So see, I also like that it's got a spout, so it's going to be easy to pour. Now you could use like a soup ladle or a half-cup measuring cup and put it in here. You could put some fresh blueberries on here. You could put some nuts ground up. Be creative. You could make faces. You can make Mickey Mouse. Have fun. So we're going to pour just a little bit of batter. Clean up the edges. And it's going to sizzle. And when you're cooking pancakes, the way that you know they're done is when it begins to have bubbles on the top of the pancake. Now we're going to let that go for a little bit, and while it's cooking, I want to show you something that you can do for the top. Now, as I mentioned in the Fast Track cookbook, there are some toppings that you can make in your Instant Pot that are great alternatives to maple syrup. Now, maple syrup tastes great, but if you look at the sugar and the carb count, it's way up there. So the Lankanta maple flavored syrup gives you an option because it's sweetened with monk fruit. Okay, I have a feeling these are done. And again, if it's done, nah, it's not quite done, because right now when I do this, I don't know if Forrest can show you. See, it's not quite, almost. It's just sticking a little bit. If when you go to put your spatula under the pancake and it's sticking along the edges, not quite done. And if you want it done just right, you want to make sure it's ready to release from the pan, because otherwise you have a mess. Still tastes good. Okay, now it's ready. Absolute perfection. Look at that. Now, doesn't that look like the most amazing pancake you've ever had? And just imagine, you could make it big. I happen to like it a little bit smaller so that I can do a stack of about 2 or 3, and it's my favorite. The most surprising thing about the Einkorn pancakes is I find that they satisfy me for hours. I almost could have them for my breakfast and not eat anything the rest of the day. When I eat other types of pancakes, especially the white flour, I can feel the blood sugar rise and drop. Don't want that. You want a nice, even burn. That's the best kind of food for your body. Okay, is it ready to take off? Yep. So now what we're going to do is put that on our plate. And if Forrest had done this, the plate would have been nice and warm so it didn't cause his pancakes to get too cold. Now, you have several options here. Butter can go right on top. You could have melted it if you wanted to. Now, here's what's interesting. One of the things my mom used to do with pancakes, I never understood it, but she would sprinkle sugar on top. She never did syrup. She would just sprinkle sugar on top. I always thought that was strange, but when you do, it gives sort of a crunchy texture. So you could do that with monk fruit. You could just put a few berries on top. You could just have it this way because it's really pretty good. Or, as you can tell, ours is almost gone. I'm going to use the Lankanta and just a little bit of a drizzle. And when I drizzle, I go clear out on the plate because that way, when I cut it, instead of having it all saturated right there in the middle, I have drizzles outside. So definitely want just a little bit of butter. And then I'm going to take my pancake and dip it in just a little bit of the drizzle. Are you ready for this? It smells amazing. You know what I like about this? The top is just crispy and the inside just melts in your mouth. Einkorn flour, it's amazing. But remember, there's other options because in Fast Track, on the move, you always get options so that you can discover what your body loves. The rest of the batter, that's going to be covered, put in the refrigerator, breakfast in the morning. Now, aren't you ready to make some pancakes for you?